Hi there, this is Jordan, and today I am going to go over editing with and without AI. And I have, of course, some friends to be here with me. Would you ladies like to introduce yourself?
My name is Mira Gold, and I am really thrilled to be here with you today, Lynn. I write fiction, primarily PNR, and some sci-fi alien romance.
Neat.
I'm Cece, also known as Word Spinner. I write romance, all flavors, any flavor, just about.
Is there anything you don't write? Any genre you don't write in romance?
I don't write M.
Oh, okay.
I've wrote MFN, but not M.
So we have a good scattering through the genres tonight here. What I thought I would show you first is a combined document of what the AI thinks is human written versus what it thinks is AI written. And this is a new tool called Binoculars that so far is the most accurate AI detector I've seen. That's not saying that it's totally accurate, because I don't think any of them really are. But we will take a look at a couple of things. It's AI, but I think it's trained on writing to detect it. So what it does, it picks up all the AI cliches, the AI isms. And here is a beginning scene from a romantic suspense book. And here we have in the second chapter, second paragraph, we've got the sound of her footsteps, which in this case is silent whispers. I'm not sure if whispers can be silent, but any sound of footstep is a tool that the AI really likes. We can have heels clicking on marble. We can have boots crunching on gravel. It really likes to give us the sound of people walking. So that's the giveaway that might be AI written. You can have a little bit of it, but don't have too much of it. And then a little bit further down, we have where Lexi breathed out. And we have a lot of breathing and hearts pounding. And here we have the verb wavering, which the gerunds, the ing words, is something that the AI really likes. Usually, it indicates a simultaneous action, which that isn't what it really means. And I know that it's there because in the training data, there is a lot of that. Writers like to introduce, especially paragraphs starting with, as she entered the room, she started to make coffee. That's not a simultaneous thing. She entered the room and then she made the coffee. But we see that a lot. So that's just something to watch out for. Another thing, and this is my fault because I did not tell the AI when it generated this to get rid of the dialogue tags. Nobody ever says anything straight out. They always say it with some adverb or adjective. And see, Anton reminded her, and Lexi muttered. So this is not straight AI generated text because I did edit it some before I ran it through the detector. But then when I thought I had it cleaned up, I went back and made sure I did the rest of it. Here we go. Lexi declared, which I changed to said, the operation hit a crescendo. Crescendo is a music term. And in this case, the AI generated another scene in this same chapter where the music crescendoed. I can have that once in a chapter. I cannot have it twice. And I don't think it's necessary here. I think that's a little overriding. And it's really telling. What do you think, ladies?
I agree. And it uses too many metaphors too.
Mm-hmm.
Loves the
There's
metaphor.
a lot of, and there's a lot of stock gestures rather than showing the action or the person living in the real-time world of the story. It's just showing those stock actions.
It is. And the reason that this lower paragraph is flagged is because I had it cut out of one version of the work and not the other. So it's indicating that as a difference. And then I also have another chapter that we can look at. It has more dialogue, so we're getting more thing in it. Up to here, I needed her to have the folder earlier. I had him hand her the folder. That's why that's different. But here she repeated, her face remained inscrutable. Where in her deep point of view, she's not going to be seeing her face. And she's certainly not going to think that she's honed this mask for years. And I don't need all those words. Okay. And here, all of a sudden, we're in Antone's point of view. He watched her carefully, knowing the gravity of what he was asking. We don't need his point of view, especially not from one little bitty paragraph.
That's right. Although an easy fix would be, because it's from her POV, right? An easy fix would be evidently or clearly, like she's thinking it, right? Clearly he's doing XYZ. But the fact that the AI doesn't put it in there there's a whole lot of narrator intrusion here. We're not in her deep POV.
And if you see, this is how I fixed it, is she knew from his demeanor that he knew the gravity. And I got rid of all that other garbage. Okay. And then we have more information about him that we didn't have in the first version. She doesn't need to say she's shopping for a wedding dress. Okay. The decision resonating. To me, that's just wrong. I don't think decisions resonate, do you?
Going for the dramatic, it's just a lot of dramatic.
It is.
Over the top.
Okay. And then we have her blue eyes. Of course, she's not going to be thinking about her blue eyes, and she's certainly not going to see that. Turning on her heel, at least it's not clacking anywhere. And then I left in she let out a breath. I'll let that stay unless it bothers me later on. And I changed up some verbiage here. And I don't think we need the using her first name in a display of familiarity. And we don't, without looking back, I don't think she'd think that she wasn't looking back. Let's see, what else did I take out? That's the kind of things that you want to look out for, is what is obviously the AI written. And I will put in the comments of this video a document about common AI phrases. That's not going to catch all of them. And they're good. For the most part, they're good phrases. They're there because it was in the training data a lot. The training data has been made up of good writing and bad writing. You can take it with a grain of salt, but because it is in the training data, it comes up so very, very much that you really need to keep an eye on what's too much. And what we could get away with before AI, we can't get away with now. So I will pick up this is to show you a reason why you want to have hands-on edit. AI can't edit for you. It can help you with some things, but it can also lead you into the weeds. And this is what happened on this particular version of Chapter 1. This is a contemporary romance. I went through Claude, and I asked it to read this chapter and to make suggestions. It said I needed more description, and I needed to beef up the relationship between the characters. I like to indulge Claude every now and then, see what he wants to do. So I said, okay, you give me a version that rewrite it and take the suggestions into account. It did. But here we have unlocked the painted green door, home away from home childhood, flipped on the light. She talks about the floor and building it with her father. She talks about the wall. She's touching objects and straightening them. So we're seeing all that. Now, this is the opening of the book. We don't know who she is. We do know, apparently, this is her shop because we've already said that. But at this point, the reader doesn't care. And one thing that really brought this home to me is I like to take a step in editing and have an audio program read it back to me. And when it read this back to me, it was like 2.5 minutes of description. And I was bored stiff by the time we got done with it. We got there. She smiled. The bell tinkled. Her sister comes in. Now, instead of getting right to it, what the sister's going to say is she's engaged to Jessica's high school sweetheart. That's the hook in this chapter. And instead, we're talking about her city life, and she's inviting Jessica to come stay with her. And then I almost forgot to tell you. And so here she's got the ring on her finger, and David proposed. And here's where we have the reaction to the proposal. But this is the story. It actually starts when she finds out that her high school boyfriend has proposed to her sister. So you want to know the rules. Yes, go ahead.
I always hear you making comments when we're talking about editing that you want to make sure that you're starting the story in the right place and that maybe you're not using a lot of exposition that maybe the author needs, but the reader really doesn't. So I've been in some of your pseudo-write classes when you were talking about that. So this is a really good example. And I do like your idea of going and starting in the real-time action. So what would you say to maybe a new fledgling writer who feels that all of that backstory information is important for the reader to understand? How would you help guide that individual to know that maybe they need to look at where the real-time action is, like you were talking about the proposal versus all that other content?
I would say that all the characters have a backstory. They wouldn't be fleshed out characters if they didn't have a backstory. But we need to slide it in a little bit at a time. In fact, one of my favorite writing teachers said something about think of it as a mirror that you throw it on the floor and it's shattered into all these little shards of glass. You want to slip the little shards in here and there. And you certainly don't want an info dump. You don't want to say, this is what happened 3 years ago, and now here we are. And another thing if you let the AI outline for you, in romance especially, generally, now there's some genres of romance that they'll do a chapter in one point of view and a chapter in the other point of view, and then they'll put the characters together. But for the standard contemporary romance, you want to get your characters together as soon as possible. And if you look at the outlines that AI likes to generate, it is, here's her and her world, and then him and his world, and then chapter 3, they get them together. Usually for beginning writers, your story starts in chapter 3. As you get more experienced, your story starts more toward the beginning. In this case, it starts maybe halfway into chapter 1, or a good way into chapter 1. But you do want to meet your genre expectations, and you want to draw your reader into the story as soon as you can. Because in this case, the reader doesn't know who Jessica is, doesn't know who Anna is, doesn't care about this flower shop. And of course, the flower shop is in Willow Creek, because this is a Willow Creek story. Willow Creek is a very common AI setting. And the only reason this is in Willow Creek is because my cohorts here and I decided that we would do a series, and giving a nod to AI, we would set it in Willow Creek. How are you ladies coming with your Willow Creek stories?
I have my Willow Creek story generated, and I maybe have about 3 chapters actually edited, but I definitely need to finish editing the rest. But I have a whole bunch of other things to edit too. But yeah, I'm completely generated.
Oh, good. That's nice.
And
Are you
I
doing one?
am not doing one and have never been a part of that Willow Creek situation. Thankfully, I'll play there.
That's fair. But we would definitely not set a story in Willow Creek if we weren't doing this tongue in cheek.
Exactly. Which is cute. I think it's cute.
Maybe I'll put
There's a
an
reason.
editor in there. I'll put an editor in there.
You should.
You do that.
I'm gonna call her Cece.
Oh,
I was
okay.
going to say, don't we need the CC editorial agency or something? What if she runs the newspaper?
Yeah, she
Make her-
runs the newspaper.
Make her cranky. Make her really cranky.
She's always sniffing out the next clue. Yeah, I think there are a few other authors who are still working on their Willow Creek.
I think so.
Kidding aside, though, Miss Lynn, your analysis of this is spot on. Nothing is happening. It's very ho-hum, and I would find it, and I'm sure many readers would find it very difficult to become engaged in this story because there's just nothing to care about other than the description of a flower shop, which inspires nobody to turn a page.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I agree with you.
And if it puts you to sleep, it's going to put the readers to sleep.
Yep.
But this is Claude doing what Claude does. Said it over, and I truly mean it. There is no push a button, get a book. You cannot come out with a good work, AI assisted, without knowing the rules yourself. You have to know what makes a good book. And then you can guide the AI. The AI can be wonderful at almost every aspect of writing. It can help you with a brainstorming. It can help you generate the prose, but you're still in control, and you still have to look at it and know what works, know why it works. If you want to violate the rules, I hate to say rules, they're really suggestions, but if you want to violate that, you have to know why the suggestion is there, and you have to have a good reason for going against the convention.
Agreed.
Would
And
you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. I'm sorry. And I guess I was reading your mind that you were going to ask that. What's interesting, you also have to know about the AI that you're working with. For example, this one right here, pseudo-write, it silos every chapter. For you to have the ability to put or sprinkle in certain amount of backstory or information that the reader would like to know so they can become engaged in a character becomes difficult because each chapter cannot see what the other chapter contains. So you can't rely upon the AI to put it where it needs to be without your direction, right? ChatGPT, that one has a memory going backwards somewhat. So when you're doing some plotting, if you're doing some of there, it might remember some of that. But this one is siloed. And so each AI has a different set of rules that it follows. And I don't mean writing rules, the way it's set up. Like they might silo a chapter or they might not silo a chapter or something that effect. So, and you guys have worked with lots of other AI. And so I'm sure you've experienced something of that nature.
Absolutely. And each LLM model has a different context window. So it can only hold so much in its memory. And you do have to have a feel for how much each model can handle. So you know how much you can input for it and how much output to expect. And this one, I think I just plopped it. Yeah, I plopped this in here because I did this in Claude chat directly with Claude.
Yeah.
Because I wanted it to come up and tell me, I wanted it to read the chapter I had. I wanted it to evaluate it and tell me how I could improve it. Now, in this case, I have a plugin. And I have a developmental editor evaluation, which is if you have pseudo-write, you can use this. Be warned, it is very expensive credit-wise to run. See what happens. And I think It's expensive because it is GPT-4 is 32K. I wanted it to have a big context window, but that is extremely expensive. And I think I probably have to click out and click back in for it to get to do anything.
And just to clarify for people that aren't familiar with this or might be new, when you say it could cost you a lot, you're talking like credits, because that's the
Credits.
currency that Pseudo uses, is called credits.
Yes, they used to give you so many words a month. Now they give you so many credits a month. And the credits, it's harder to figure out, but it depends on each model costs a different amount tokens to run. And you can use cheaper models, more expensive models, so you're more in control of how much you're spending. But you certainly want to be aware there's nothing here that says, hey, you're going to spend a bunch of credits if you run this. Okay. Give me, looks like it just redid the, wait a minute, here we go. Okay, the strength says it has strong descriptive details. Oh, we know that. I could cut plenty of description. Sights and sounds and smells, we know that. Expedition and dialogue. If it doesn't really matter, it doesn't matter if there's a balance here. Okay, the plot's set up. Now this was, I guess the marriage of convenience thing comes in later on. So it says it's an intriguing. The pacing flows, I would say no. I don't think the pacing flows well. The scene changes, moves the story forward. The story doesn't move until we move out of this first descriptive scene. Okay. Okay, it says we shift from Jessica's point of view to omniscient point of view. And that's something I hadn't really delved into because I'm throwing all this away anyway. Yeah. Lengthy sentences could be broken up. Cliched metaphors. Heartfelt shattered. If that isn't an AIism, I've never heard of an AIism. And then it talks about the hero some. You don't see him because I didn't go down further in the scene. It wants tighten up the sentences. Okay, yeah, get rid of that. The heartbeat, heart. There's a lot of things doing with the heart. Some of these, one day I'm going to write a story and put a cardiologist in it because all these people definitely have some sort of heart trouble. Okay, we need more. Okay, so it says it fits the contemporary genre, but I don't really agree with this evaluation, especially not in this part.
And I think that's one of the biggest things that a lot of people need to realize is that just because an AI might tell you that it fits in a specific genre or evaluates it and gives it a raving review doesn't necessarily mean that it's looking at it the same way a human editor would look at a body of work, because the LLM is just using predictive indexing. Yeah, I agree 100% with you, Lynn.
Mm-hmm. And I made another version of this that does some rewriting. And I really recommend you don't use that because it uses even more credits. And I got rid of the tell me the strengths. I don't trust its strengths, and we don't need to know its strengths. We need to know what we need to change. And that is one thing that when you're looking for a critique, if you're looking for editorial input, now, of course, everybody loves to hear, oh, this is wonderful. I wouldn't change a thing. It's just great. That's not helpful. That won't help strengthen your work, and it won't help you grow as a writer. You want to know what's wrong with it. What can be improved? And I promise you, everything can be improved, especially if you're the only one that's looked at it. You need to have different eyes on it, and you need to give it some time to look at it objectively. Because right after you write it, that's just great. Nothing could be improved. But a day or two later, if you go back and look at it, I'm sure you'll see things that are jumping out at you as, why did I write that? So that's what happens if you trust the AI to do your editing for you. Editing is the one place. I think it's the most important place where you need the human touch. What do you ladies think?
100%.
I feel that it does need the human touch. And I guess I always go back to the beats and looking at what was in the beats and also the AI itself, because some of the AIs, we know that they just want to tie everything up in a wonderful, beautiful bow all the time. And I don't know, I just feel that having some additional prompting is what worked for me when I worked with the LLMs inside a pseudo writes story Bible. I often did a lot of prompting, did that in Chat GPT-4 as well as in Claude. And I think that they can both, all three areas can turn out some really nice, interesting prose or a blueprint or a little foundation that you might be able to build on. But yeah, I think it needs a lot of editing to be able to take the dense stuff out of it so that the actual story can shine.
And this is Claude. And Claude tends to be dramatic and overwrite.
He's
One
like
of the techniques.
He's like a teenage girl, angsty and drama, huh?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And that's why I like to run it. This makes Mira Gold's head spin. But I like to do several different models to generate the prose and then put the results together. And I think if this is going to come up eventually, it should come up into my, this is just the tip. Here we go. Where this is back on that romantic suspense that we looked at first. And I've got two different versions here. And if you see, here we are, her heartbeat synced with the thuds of her combat boots. That's got two strikes against it because it's got the heartbeat, it's got the thud of the combat boots. So I got rid of that. And I kept the metallic tang of the harbor air. And here we have the serenity of the night sky above. If this is an action scene, she's an agent, she's on a mission. She's not thinking about the serenity of the night above, and I don't want the reader thinking about it either. So we're not going to stop the center of the rain and the glow of the streetlights and all that. So we're going to get to more of the actual story. And I think this is Claude, and this is GPT, probably 4 Turbo.
And the middle section is what you are taking from each, the merged prose. Okay. And you do that manually. You do not do that with AI.
Right. And I just cut and paste and move it back and forth. I see I have the beginning here twice, and that's okay. And here's I left it in, the silent footsteps. And remember, the AI checker got me on that. This was an early version, so I don't know how much is really still in there now. But as you can see, by the time you're done with the mixing and matching and editing, it's really almost impossible to say what was AI written and what was human written. Because you have to keep adding your own voice, your own thoughts, how you want the action to go, and changing the words up. So that's my method for editing. Now, there's not one method. I'm sure the method that I use is not the method that Mira Gold uses, it's not the method that Cece uses. Find the method that works for you. And then I can't stress enough, have somebody else look at it. Another human editor. Because that's what makes the difference between okay work and good work.
Amen.
It won't be perfect. Cece says done trumps perfect. But
I definitely want to point out that the way that you use the audio narration to read the selection to you, that is something that I also do. And I don't necessarily use 11 Labs or anything like that to have it read back to me, but I will go in and actually have my Word document or the PDF reader read a section to me. But I generally do that after I've already read the book from beginning to end, made sure that I had done like that first round and edited that content. Then I might listen to it like that and take notes in case I have missed areas that I need to make changes to, and then I'll edit again. And then after a few more passes, and when I think I'm ready to do that final read before I send to my editor, I like to listen to the PDF reader or the Microsoft Word read to me because, like you were saying, Lynn, and it's so true, you get so used to what you're looking at, you can't see it with fresh eyes. And you've had your head in the story for so long that you're going to miss things. And I do using that audio to be able to follow along with, because it also lets you know when there's something really awkward, or maybe if you have an odd word in there, or maybe you have omitted a word, you can catch that. But you also have to be careful of homophones because what it's reading back to you, and there's a homophone, if you're not reading along with it, you may miss that.
That's absolutely true. And yes, I use the audio as my last pass after I've cleaned up all the rest of it, because it doesn't make sense to do it and then change something and do it and change something. So I want to get it as clean as I can. And the audio is a great check. And it also will tell you if you're using words repeatedly, because I don't know about you ladies, but when I sit down for a writing session, I seem to have a favorite word bubble up in my head. And for that session, that particular word will keep showing up.
100%. Yes, I run into that too. And the other cool thing about having it read to you, especially in that final pass, is that you begin to listen to it with a different kind of ear. And one of the things that I like to do when I'm doing that more polished look at the work or listen to it, I like to listen to what it would sound like if I had it in audio. Because if I have the word I, like me, myself, and I, if I have I, and then I say I something like EYE, that sounds really odd when somebody reads I this. And you want to make sure that you're looking for oddities like that in your sentences. I know another one that I generally catch whenever I have it reading back to me is if I'm starting paragraphs with the character's name like every couple of paragraphs, or the same word over and over again on my paragraphs, or maybe I'm ending one sentence with one word and then starting the next sentence with the same word that I just ended with. Those are some of the things that I might miss when I'm reading it, just looking at it and reading. But when I hear it in audio, I tend to pick up on that. That's a great way to look at another body of work.
Exactly. Yeah, that the reason I did audio on the flower shop one so soon is because I was playing with one of the audio generator tools, and they uses different voices, so I wanted to see how that worked. And the side benefit of that was you better go back and change this first chapter. But one thing is, don't spend forever on the first chapter, because you'll probably rewrite it at least 3 times during the course of writing the book. So you don't really know what you need in that first chapter till you get further along in the book. And that will help your starting in the right place as well.
I think that was also something that Cece had told me whenever I was writing. I think my third book that I had written, the first 2 I wrote in first person. The third book that I wrote in third person, but I had multiple POVs, and I kept going back and forth asking her some questions. And she told me that first, few chapters of your book may change by the time you get to your last chapter. And one of the things I think that helped me as a new writer back then was that Cece told me, you know what, you need to write the rough draft. You need to go from chapter 1 all the way to the end because there may be things that unfold when you're writing your body of work that might impact, say, that first chapter, the first third of your book, or even the first half by the time you finish. And by writing from that first chapter all the way to the end, you at least have the bones of your story down so that whenever you do go back to that chapter one and begin to read exactly what that flow of your story is. But if you keep changing, say, the first 1 to 5 chapters over and over again before you can write a new chapter, you're really never going to get to the end if you keep changing everything else. So I think that was one of the best pieces of advice that I got as a fledgling writer, was to finish the draft, because chances are you are going to have to make changes to it. And let me tell you, I always make changes to my opening chapters. Great advice, Lynn. Definitely.
Now that method works for me, Mira. I love to write the whole book, but if it works better for you to do some editing, now you cannot do your final editing until you have your whole piece of work. But if you feel like you really need to edit a chapter before you can go on, you can do that. Just don't spend too much time on it. And especially don't spend too much time on that first chapter, because I guarantee you that first chapter is going to change.
Agreed. And my methodology is to write whatever I'm going to write for that day. And then when I put it aside, the next day I come back and look at what I wrote the day before. It gives me a chance to, number one, make sure I'm staying in with continuity within the story. But it also, that's where I might tweak a few words or fix something. Not obsessively, but just enough to make sure it's better than it was before. I actually do that. Before I even finish the rough draft, everything has gotten at least one pass. Sometimes I'll go and do another pass. The next day I might edit or review the last 2 days or 3 days. And I try to leave my writing off. And I'm talking writing now. I'm not necessarily talking AI. We all have been or should have all had been writers in one form or another before we decided to let AI take us on a journey. But I like to stop writing on a hook. I do that to myself because it makes me more excited to get to the next day where I open it up and I'm like, oh yeah, we get to start in a cool place. And it also, if you ended on something that doesn't excite you, you're not as eager to come back to it, but maybe you're not serving your story as well. That's for me. Now, other people, they might have a different method, but I like to leave it right there on the hook and also I can mull it over and chew on it while I'm going about my day. And maybe I might come up with a different twist to that part of the story. You never know. That's my thought.
Are you one of the people that advocate stopping in the middle of the sentence?
No, because I will forget. I will forget everything because that's just, no, I don't. But
yeah, that's what I do is, where was I going with this?
Yeah, it's just too confusing. But I do like to leave it where I know where the story's going, but knowing where it's going and writing that excitement down are two different things. So I like to leave it where I can start the next day with that cool, exciting scene.
Yeah, see, and I can't stop mid-sentence. I can't even stop mid-scene if it's still in the same chapter. I'm so compelled whenever, and this is pre-AI writing, I am so compelled to finish that chapter. So if I sit down and I'm writing a chapter, I'm not going to stop until I go from the beginning to the end of that chapter. And I know that as soon as I finish that chapter, if I already have a spark of what I want in the next chapter, man, if I start even writing 1 or 2 paragraphs of the next chapter, I'm not going to stop until I finish that chapter too. So yeah, I don't like to leave anything undone in a chapter. I will continue to write it.
But think about the fact that you do end every chapter on a hook, don't you?
Mm-hmm. I
You always
do.
end it on a hook.
I
You're
do.
just not doing it
Like
mid
that
scene.
cliffhanger. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're leaving it with a question or something that needs to be answered or addressed.
Yep.
Something a reader curious. Yeah.
That wasn't something that I did innately. That was something that I had to learn.
Yeah,
Of course.
I think a lot of stuff that we do, we've learned over time.
That and starting with a hook
Yeah.
and ending it with that
Right.
cliffhanger.
Right. Nobody's born knowing writing skills.
That's true.
That's not an innate instinct.
But storytelling is, and
It
isn't
is.
it awesome when you meet someone who's a heck of a storyteller?
Yes.
I love that.
And great storytelling can overcome some lack of skills. Skills can be learned, though.
Yes.
Yeah, I do love a storyteller, somebody who can weave a tale that I can get lost in and completely forget about everything else because the story has gripped me.
Mhm, exactly.
It's been a very informative and good session, Miss Lynn.
I really appreciate you being here with me this evening.
No,
Well,
happy to be here.
I
I was-
always love your wisdom.
I'm just happy to be invited.
Me
course.
too.
You're going to be sorry you said that.
You can always invite us. And I'm sure as long as we do not have anything on our plate, we are always happy to join.
Always.
You will be invited a lot, trust me.
Right.
My goal is to get more videos out.
Ooh.
Good, because you need to share your wisdom.
What's your next video on? Do you know yet?
I need to do one on publishing.
Oh, nice.
Very nice.
And
And I
maybe a
thought-
marketing one in the future?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Because you're a master at that. So, yeah.
Now, what we're doing with the book in a month from Write, we're doing modules, so many weeks. And this week and next week are editing. And so Nicole Broussard and I put up videos about our process. And then that doesn't take the class time away from people who are stuck, need to ask questions, or want time to write. So we're
Nice.
doing that more during that period. And so this week we'll end the editing phase and then we'll go into the publishing phase.
Nice. Very nice. Wonderful.
And then we'll have the marketing phase.
Well,
Now, once you're done with that, where will y'all go from there?
We'll start a new one. The next session of Book in a Month starts in April.
So how long are
It's
each of
actually
these
book in a
sessions
quarter.
now? Book in a quarter?
It's book in a quarter. And we're having 2 sessions a week, one morning session and one evening session to try to cover all the time zones.
Oh, that's
She
nice.
She does Saturday mornings, but I think it's Saturday morning at noon Eastern. And I do Sunday evening at 6 Eastern.
Oh, nice.
so people can
So-
just reach out to you sometime before April to sign up for the next.
In fact, in Write, the application is live. I guess I should put the link in the video here.
That's right, you guys. You
So I'll
heard
put
it.
it in the comments.
They're taking applications for book in a quarter.
I think the cool thing about this is that if you are a pseudo-write user and once this opens up to you, it is not something that you're having to pay for. It's part of your subscription to pseudo-write to be able to take these classes and learn some of these skills, correct?
Exactly. And we're always there in the Write Discord. We have our own channel. Well, it's a private channel. And we can discuss things there. People can ask questions. And we do tend to do some Write with me. So if I'm going to be working on something, and I'll put up a link. And Nicole puts up a link and says, okay, I'm in Zoom working. Do you want to come join me?
So it's you guys are doing this right with me is like just online get together where you're working on projects together,
Exactly.
but like quietly. That is-
Because as you know, with AI, we're in this together.
yes, that is so cool that y'all do that though. I love the way that y'all are serving the community of writers.
It's serving us too because it gives us time to work on our stuff.
That's a good thing too.
We all need to set aside time to write, and
Yes.
that does help. But if
And
anybody watching
editing.
the video in editing, there you go. If anybody has any questions about any of this, you can leave a comment on the video, and I'm sure one of us will get back to you.
And before you end it, Miss Lynn,
Yes.
y'all, don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell, like the video, like the channel, all that good stuff.